August 7th, 1943, 26,000 feet above the Solomon Islands. The sun is a dull copper disk sinking toward the Pacific as the air grows thin and frigid. The high-altitude world is quiet. Too quiet. Broken only by the deep, synchronized hum of two Allison V-1710 engines pushing a lone fighter ever higher. Frost gathers along the canopy frame, vibrating from the power surging through the twin booms. Major Richard Dick Bong leans forward in his cockpit, the oxygen mask cold against his face, eyes narrowing on the dim silhouettes far below. Tiny specks in a loose V formation. Mitsubishi A6M Zeros glint in the late afternoon light. They're climbing, slowly, predictably, confidently. They think they're alone up here. They think no American fighter can reach them. Bong allows himself the smallest grin. For months, Japanese pilots had mocked the new American twin-engine interceptor, the Lockheed P-38 Lightning. Too bulky, too heavy, too slow to turn. A bomber pretending to be a fighter, one captured aviator had joked. But out here, at altitude, the Lightning is something else entirely. Inside Bong's cockpit, the turbo-superchargers howl like enraged banshees. With each throttle push, the aircraft surges, climbing where single-engine fighters gasp for air. Every inch upward feels like a tightening noose around the enemy pilots below. The clouds part beneath him, revealing the sprawling green mazes of New Georgia Island, its volcanic ridges sharp as broken teeth. Far below, the sea reflects the orange sky like a sheet of flame. But at this height, the ocean's warmth is forgotten, replaced by a cold that bites through leather gloves. Bong checks his instruments, altimeter steady at 26,300 feet, airspeed hovering just above stall. Engines smooth but straining, right where he wants them. He flicks his radio. Red leader to red flight, eyes on the bandits. They're holding 18,000. They don't see us. Static crackles back, followed by the calm drawl of Lieutenant Thomas. Tommy Lanphier, copy that, red leader. Stay high, stay cold. We drop in together. Below, the Japanese formation continues its methodical climb toward the slot. 10 aircraft, maybe more. Their leader, a veteran petty officer in a silver-painted Zero, scans the sky lazily. He sees nothing. The Pacific is quiet today. The Americans usually approach from the east, skimming the waves. Never from above. Not at this height. The Zero commander shifts in his seat, enjoying the ease with which his aircraft handles the thinning air. The Zero is a dancer even up here, light, agile, nimble. His men trusted implicitly. Why wouldn't they? The Americans have nothing that can match its climb rate, or so he believes. Bong steadies his breathing and runs a gloved hand along the P-38's control yoke. The Lightning feels coiled, tense, waiting. The engine's vibrations travel through the entire airframe, through the pilot himself. Every sense sharpens. Lanphier radios again. Red leader, give the word. Bong's eyes lock onto the trailing Zero, the one drifting slightly out of formation. A rookie, maybe. An easy first kill. But that isn't his target. No. He wants the leader. The one who feels safe. The one who still thinks American fighters can't climb like this. Bong pushes the nose down gently, letting gravity begin its pull. The Lightning responds immediately. The engines roar, the airframe trembles, the dive begins. Frost on the canopy melts instantly. The altimeter unwinds in a blur. Bong's eyes widen behind his goggles, not in fear, but in anticipation. The dive of the P-38 is its deadliest gift. Twin engines compressing airflow, turning potential energy into raw, murderous speed. Red flight, now! 3 P-38s tilt forward together, slicing into the dive as one. The world becomes a tunnel of wind and sunlight. The Japanese formation grows larger, rapidly, too fast for them to react, too fast for them to hide, too fast for their slow-climbing Zeros to escape. The Zero commander finally looks up. For a heartbeat, he freezes. 3 silver arrows are falling out of the heavens, sun glinting off their wings, contrails spiraling behind them like twisting spears of white flame. His pupils dilate. His hands slam the throttle forward. But at this altitude, the Zero has nothing left to give. And the P-38s are coming on like thunder. The first burst erupts from Bong's nose guns. 4 50 cals and a 20mm cannon spitting fire in a single, deadly stream. No wing-mounted convergence issues, no guessing at angles. The Lightning fires straight down its own line of sight, and at this closing speed, that's all he needs. The tracers stitch across the sky and tear into the lead Zero's engine cowling. Metal shreds. Oil vapor bursts outward in a black cloud. The Japanese commander never even completes his evasive roll. His Zero snaps downward, trailing flame, vanishing beneath the diving lightnings. Bong flashes past him at nearly 450 mph. The P-38s roar through the center of the formation like angels of death. Zeros scatter in panic, some breaking left, some right, others pulling straight up in blind desperation. But climbing is exactly what they can't do now. As they claw upward, their engines gasp for oxygen, their rates of climb collapsing to nothing. Up here, they're fish dragged from the sea. Lanfear's Lightning dives past 2 startled fighters, banking sharply into a high G roll. He yanks back on the yoke, the P-38 responding with smooth, heavy authority. The Zero behind him tries to follow, but even at full throttle, its nose droops, its prop biting thin air uselessly. Lanfear circles above it like a hawk. His voice crackles over the radio. They can't follow us. Pick them off while they're floating. Below, Ensign Hiroshi Takata fights to level his Zero. The American ambush has shattered their formation in seconds. He feels the shudder of overworked cylinders beneath him. He pushes the throttle to the stop. Nothing. The aircraft vibrates harder, but the climb rate doesn't change. His breath fogs the inside of his goggles as he looks upward. Americans. Twin-engine monsters descending like predators from altitudes no Zero can reach. For months, instructors had told him the P-38 was clumsy, too heavy, incapable of tight maneuvering. Yet here, its wings are steady. Its engines roar with terrifying strength. And it refuses to stall. Takata banks instinctively, trying to dive away, letting gravity grant him the speed his engine cannot. But the moment he tips forward, a flash of silver streaks past him. Another Lightning. This one doesn't shoot. Not yet. It simply pulls upward again, climbing effortlessly, daring him to follow. He tries. God, he tries. The Zero rises only a few hundred feet before the controls grow mushy. The engine coughs. The nose trembles in protest. Takata is forced to roll level again. But the P-38 is already above him, circling back for the kill with an ease that makes his stomach hollow. Below the chaos, Bong completes his pullout, G-forces crushing him into the seat. He scans the sky instantly, altitude regained, energy conserved. Perfect for a second strike. He spots a pair of Zeros breaking toward the sun, hoping to disappear in the glare. Red 2, with me, they're running east. Lieutenant Steve Spike McDonald slides in behind him, engine screaming. They climb, not shallow, hesitant climbs like the Zero pilots below, but aggressive, confident ones. The turbo-superchargers spool up, feeding dense, cool air into the engines, even at altitude, letting the massive Allisons gulp oxygen the Japanese engines can only dream of. The two lightnings arc upward, turning the dive's stolen energy into another towering ascent. Below, Takata watches helplessly as more P-38s coil above the battle like metallic sharks, preparing another pass. His squadron mates zigzag wildly, turning tight circles out of instinct. Even though up here, turning is suicide. Every hard bank bleeds what little energy they have left. The American fighters don't bother with turn fighting. They don't need to. They climb, they strike. They climb again. Boom and zoom, over and over, turning altitude and gravity into weapons sharper than any bullets. Lanfear's voice cuts in again. Red flight, reset for another run. Don't get suckered into their turns. Bong breathes deep, eyes locking onto the next target. The Zero pilots once mocked the P-38. Now the sky itself is betraying them. Thin air strangling their engines, their confidence evaporating with every failed climb. And the lightnings are just getting started. Takata's altimeter unwinds as he tilts his nose downward, desperate to regain speed. The air thickens. His engine responds finely, and the Zero steadies. The instinct to dive, flee, survive pulses through him. Below, the Pacific shimmers like a molten shield. If he can get low enough, maybe the Americans won't be able to use their diving attacks. Maybe the old lessons still matter near sea level. But Bong sees him. Red 2, he's diving out. Taking him. Spike McDonald answers with a clipped, with you. The two lightnings drop from altitude as if gravity itself owed them a favor. Wind shrieks past their canopies. Control surfaces hum under compression. The P-38s gather speed so rapidly that their dive feels less like falling and more like a slingshot being released. Takata glances back, and fear stiffens his spine. The Americans are not only following him down, they're gaining. The Zero was built to be light, nimble, perfect for swirling turn fights. But dives? Hard dives? High-speed engagements? The Zero becomes fragile, twitchy, almost frightened of its own airframe. Too much speed and its wings can flutter. Too much pressure and the controls seize. Yet the P-38s behind him cut through the dive like arrows. Takata pulls back gently, leveling off at a safer altitude, hoping the Americans overshoot. But Bong knows the rhythm of the lightning intimately. Knows exactly how far he can push the dive before compressibility becomes danger. He feathers his throttle, then brings the nose up just slightly. And the Zero fills his gun sight. Guns. Hot. He squeezes the trigger. The burst is short, surgical. The tracers walk across the Zero's right wing. Takata's aircraft jerks violently, rolling to one side. Smoke begins trailing from the shattered aileron. He fights it. God, he fights it. But the Zero is wounded, sinking in a slow, uneven spiral. Bong pulls up before he can watch it fall. There's no satisfaction in dwelling. The fight is still thick around him. Above, Lanfear and Red 4 arc across the sky in a tight climbing spiral, their silhouettes glinting like twin silver crescents. Below them, a cluster of Zeros tries to regroup, 4 aircraft tightening into a defensive circle, their pilots shouting terse commands over radio. It's a classic Japanese tactic. A rotating wheel of fighters, each covering the tail of the one ahead. Impossible to break through at low altitude. But at high altitude? With the P-38's vertical power, it's a trap for themselves. Lanfear levels out above the circle. Red 4, on my mark. Punch right through the top. A moment passes. The Zeros tighten their circle. Their turn rate bleeds more airspeed. Their altitude drains away like water from a cracked basin. Lanfear dives. His guns erupt, ripping into the topmost Zero. Pieces of metal shear loose, spinning through the air like autumn leaves. The wounded fighter breaks from the circle, instantly exposing the one behind it. Red 4 streaks in and fires. Another Zero peels off, smoke billowing. The circle collapses into chaos. Lanfear pulls back into a climbing spiral, using every knot of energy from his dive, coiling upward to safety once more. Reset, climb and hit them again. The American tactic is brutally simple. Strike from above. Break apart their formations. Climb out of reach and strike again. To the Zero pilots below, it feels like fighting ghosts. Ghosts with engines that refuse to choke in the thin air, aircraft that refuse to stall, wings that refuse to flutter. Takata, still spiraling downward in his wounded aircraft, looks up through a canopy streaked with oil. Above him, the sky flashes with silver. Every few seconds, another P-38 dives, fires, and vanishes upward again, like a mechanical falcon stooping on helpless prey. He had been told the P-38 was too heavy, too ungainly, too slow to turn. But no one told him how it would rule the sky when altitude chose the victor. Far above, Bong resets to 23,000 feet. Engines steady, guns warm, eyes scanning for the next threat. And for the first time in the Solomons that day, there are fewer Zeros to find. Bong banks left, leveling against the wind's thin pressure as he searches for the next target. The high atmosphere feels eerily open now. Patches of empty sky where moments ago Japanese fighters had swarmed like hornets. His engines drone in a deep, steady rumble, the turbo-superchargers glowing faintly as they continue gulping cold, rare air. Spike McDonald climbs up on his wing. Red Leader, I'm clean. No bandits on my 6. Good. We're resetting at 24. Stay tight. The pair of lightnings rise again, carving upward arcs that the Zero pilots cannot hope to match. Below them, the remnants of the Japanese formation scatter in loose, desperate knots. No cohesion, no discipline, just survival. A lone Zero pulls into a hard right turn, its wings flexing dangerously. Bong instantly recognizes the move, a frantic attempt to bait an American into a turning fight. At low altitude, with equal energy, it might have worked. But up here, it's suicide. Bong pushes his nose forward just enough to slide into a shallow dive. The P-38 gathers speed with patient confidence, a predator choosing its moment rather than lunging blindly. He lines up the crossing angle. The Zero keeps turning, tighter, tighter still, bleeding airspeed like a punctured tank. The pilot inside, young, determined, terrified, glances over his shoulder and sees the lightning growing larger, impossibly large. He hauls back on his stick to tighten the spiral, hoping to force the American into an overshoot. But Bong doesn't follow. He simply times the crossing and fires a burst that slices through the Zero's turn arc like a razor. The Japanese fighter convulses, snaps sideways, and slips into a tumbling spin. The pilot tries to correct, rudder kicking, ailerons jerking, but the altitude, the battered airframe, the speed he lacks, none of it is enough. The Zero drops past him, trailing sparks. Spike whistles over the radio. Nice cut, Red Leader. Didn't even have to chase him. Never turn with a Zero. Never dive too shallow. Vertical only. Bong's voice is calm, almost instructional, as if reminding himself as much as anyone else. Below them, Lanfear and Red 4 are finishing their own reset. Their silver aircraft glint in the sunlight as they rejoin the American altitude band, a towering dome of control they've built pass by pass, climb by climb. Lanfear's voice crackles through, edged with excitement. "Red Leader, I've got 2 bandits trying to run north. They're low. Want 'em?" Bong considers. He can dive on them, easily. But to chase low is to give up the one advantage the P-38 absolutely owns. Down low, the Zero regains some of its agility. Down low, the Lightning becomes vulnerable. He scans the horizon. Then he sees it. 2 more Zeros, climbing. Not aggressively. Not confidently. No. They climb like men scaling a sinking ship, slow, labored, forcing machines past their limits in the hope of reaching the safety of altitude they no longer trust. Bong's jaw tightens. "Red Flight, forget the runners. We take the climbers." The Lightnings roll into formation like steel birds, aligning for a coordinated strike. Their engines thunder as they pitch forward. The dive begins again, steeper this time. Wind roars. Contrails rip behind them like comet tails. One of the climbing Zeros sees them first. His radio bursts with frantic warnings. The 2 Japanese fighters try to break formation. One rolls right, one left. But with their noses already pitched upward, they have no momentum, no energy, no chance. Lanfear's burst hits the rightmost Zero. Wings shear. The cockpit canopy flashes. The fighter disintegrates in a sparkling arc of debris. Red 4 takes the leftmost. A single concentrated burst turns the engine into a fireball. Both Zeros fall together, spiraling like flaming petals into the valley below. Bong pulls out of his dive, climbing once more. The sky is clearing. The battle thinning. In the distance, a single Zero remains. Wobbling, barely able to hold altitude, its pilot refusing to dive, refusing to run. He's climbing, still climbing, trying to reach the Americans where they live. Bong can't help but respect the bravery, even if it's misguided. He angles his Lightning toward the lone fighter. "Red Flight, regroup. 1 bandit left. I've got him." The P-38 rises into the golden light of evening, both engines singing in perfect harmony. Below him, the Japanese pilot continues his stubborn, hopeless climb, believing altitude is salvation. But today, over the Solomons, altitude belongs to the Lightning. The lone Zero trembles as it climbs, the nose bobbing under the strain. Its engine, and Sake 12 radial, growls unevenly, struggling to pull the lightweight frame upward through thinning air. The pilot, Petty Officer First Class Masaru Ishida, feels every vibration through the seat, through the stick, through his bones. He knows he shouldn't be climbing. He knows this is the Americans' realm. But he also knows something else. Dying while running is a disgrace. Dying while climbing, seeking the enemy face to face, is honorable. He glances at the photograph tucked beside his compass. His wife. His son. He touches the edge with a gloved thumb, then pushes the throttle one last, useless notch forward. The Zero shudders. Above him, 2 specks appear, growing larger by the second. Lightnings. Bong and Spike slide into a high echelon formation, silhouettes glowing silver in the setting sun. They descend slowly, deliberately, giving themselves time to read the scene. The sky is calm now, quiet except for the distant hiss of retreating fighters far to the east. The battle, for all intents and purposes, is over. Only Ishida climbs on. Spike's voice crackles through the static. "Red Leader, he's not running. What's he doing?" Bong doesn't answer immediately. He watches. The Zero keeps rising, nose slightly wavering, wings rocking ever so gently in the thin air. Each 100 feet costs the aircraft dearly. Its propeller loses bite. Its cylinders gasp. Its climb rate, once legendary at low altitude, collapses into a crawl. Ishida looks up at the approaching Americans. He can almost make out their canopies reflecting the sun. He steels himself. Bong exhales into his mask. He's trying to reach us. At 23,000? He can't. He knows. The two P-38s tilt their noses downward. Not diving, not rushing, just settling into a slow, authoritative descent that maintains control over energy and distance. They approach like predators, ending a hunt they've already won. Ishida's Zero begins to wobble more violently. The nose dips. He yanks it back up. The engine sputters, coughing black flecks of smoke across his canopy. But he keeps climbing. The Pacific beneath them glows in molten orange. Shadows from the clouds stretch across the water like long, dark fingers. The air is freezing now. Icy wind creeping through Ishida's boots, numbing his fingers. His breath fogs the canopy with every exhale. The lightnings descend parallel to him on either side, giving him space. Maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of respect. Spike radios softly. He's out of energy, Dick, just floating. Bong's eyes narrow. I'll take him clean, no waste. He banks slightly, sliding behind the Zero at a slow, controlled pace. The P-38 hangs in the thin air, engine steady, prop tips glowing faintly from friction. He edges closer, careful not to overshoot. Ishida sees the lightning shift behind him. He knows what's coming. He steadies his breathing, straightens his shoulders, levels his aircraft as best he can, and does not dive. Bong places the Zero in the center of his gun sight. The reticle wavers as the air becomes unpredictable, high-altitude turbulence tugging at both fighters. He compensates gently with the rudder. For a moment, the two men share the same patch of sky, alone, suspended above the world, linked by nothing but their machines and the strange, brutal logic of war. Bong squeezes the trigger. A short burst. Precise, clean. The rounds strike the Zero's left wing root. A puff of smoke. A flash. Ishida's aircraft rolls gently to the side, like a bird folding its wings. No explosion. No fireball. Just a graceful, downward drift. Ishida closes his eyes. The engine sputters out. The world tilts. The Zero begins its long fall into the burning horizon. Spike speaks quietly over the radio. That's it then. The sky's ours. Bong watches the falling aircraft for several seconds before finally banking away. The P-38 climbs smoothly, effortlessly, reclaiming altitude as if the air itself welcomes it. Today, the Solomons witnessed a truth the Japanese High Command had refused to believe. The P-38 Lightning did not need to turn with the Zero. It only needed the sky. And today, at altitude, the Lightning owned every inch of it. The last glow of sunset bleeds across the Solomons as red flight forms up again, the P-38s sliding into a loose diamond high above the canopy of clouds. Their engines hum in weary unison, exhausted but relentless, like marathoners easing into a cool-down jog after a grueling race. Landfear radios in, voice steady but edged with adrenaline. Red Leader, confirm. No more bandits on scope. Sky's clean. Bong glances at the horizon. Nothing but orange haze and endless ocean. Copy. Red flight, set course for base. Keep your eyes open until we're feet dry. The lightnings turn eastward, their twin booms glowing faintly as the last rays of sunlight catch polished aluminum. Below them, the scattered wreckage of the battle drifts toward the jungle canopy and darkening sea. trails of smoke, smudged spirals of vapor. The fading echoes of propellers that will never spin again. Spike settles in beside Bong, his silhouette calm in the encroaching twilight. Hell of a climb fight, Dick. Never seen him fall apart like that. Bong doesn't answer immediately. He's thinking, processing the odd quiet that follows violent encounters. Up high, they never stood a chance. They shouldn't have come that high. Spike snorts. They didn't know we could get there. That truth hangs between them. For months, Japanese pilots had laughed at the Lightning. 2 engines, heavy frame, wide wingspan. They saw it as a lumbering intruder pretending to be a fighter. A machine that could never, should never, threaten the Zero in its element. But today proved what American engineers had understood all along. Altitude was the Lightning's kingdom. Its turbo-supercharged Allisons didn't simply operate at high altitude. They thrived there. The superchargers crowded oxygen into the engines with mechanical ferocity, letting them breathe freely in a sky that suffocated lesser machines. And with twin props clawing at the thin air, the Lightning didn't just climb, it ruled the vertical. The Zero pilots discovered that truth too late. Lanfear drifts closer in formation. Red leader, tally your kills? Bong hesitates. The question feels too soon. 3, maybe 4, hard to confirm. Spike adds, I saw 2 go down clean. And Lanfear, you carved those 2 climbers like a Thanksgiving turkey. Lanfear lets out a short, shaky laugh. The kind pilots make after surviving something their bodies haven't fully accepted yet. They just sat there. Nose up, no power, nothing. I couldn't believe it. They were out of sky, Bong replies quietly. They never imagined we'd take it away from them. The 4 P-38s fly in silence for a long moment. Then a faint crackle on the radio breaks the calm. Red Flight, this is Barracoma Tower. We see you. Clear to land. Wind steady from the southeast. Welcome home. The men breathe out, the tension easing slightly. Home, if a muddy, pierced-together fighter strip on a jungle island counts as home, is only minutes away. As they descend, the moon rises over the Solomons, reflected in the stillness of the sea. The oppressive cold of high altitude melts away, replaced by humid tropical air that fogs the canopies and smells faintly of salt and jungle rot. The lightnings cut through it effortlessly, like silver ghosts returning from a realm where only they can survive. Spike taps his mic once more. You know, they'll rethink their climb tactics after today. Bong shakes his head. Won't matter. They can't change what their planes are. And ours, he pats the throttle quadrant gently, are built for the heights. And the heights, today, decided everything. One by one, the P-38s descend toward the dim runway lights flickering through the palm trees. They touch down in rolling bursts of dust and gravel, engines spooling down with tired metallic whines. Ground crew rushes forward, guiding them into revetments hacked from jungle earth. Bong pops his canopy, humid air rushing in, heavy and alive, after the freezing altitudes above. As he climbs down the ladder, he glances once more at the darkening sky. The Japanese had mocked the P-38, mocked its size, mocked its weight, mocked its very idea. But today, over the Solomons, they learned a bitter truth. It wasn't built to dance at sea level. It wasn't built to turn under the jungle canopy. It wasn't built to mimic the Zero. It was built to climb, built to come from above, built to dominate the vertical battlefield where the Zero could not breathe. And once the Lightning had altitude, the Zero had nowhere left to hide.